Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. As usual, we have a packed show for you, including yet another exclusive G20 interview coming up. But first, some news from the United States. It's now official. Former US President Donald Trump will face trial in Washington for trying to overturn the 2020 election result on the 4th of March next year. This comes despite efforts by Trump and his lawyers to push back the case by several years. US District Judge Tanya Chutkan rebuffed claims by Trump's attorneys that an April 2026 trial date was necessary to account for the huge volume of evidence that they claimed they are reviewing and to prepare for what they argue is a novel and unprecedented prosecution. But the judge agreed to postpone the trial a little bit beyond the January 2024 date that had been proposed by special counsel Jack Smith's prosecution team. This trial will come during the height of the 2024 Republican primary season. The judge said the public has a right to a prompt and efficient resolution of this matter. Trump pleaded not guilty earlier this month to charges filed in a federal district court in Washington that he conspired to defraud the United States, to obstruct an official proceeding, obstructing official and engaging in a conspiracy against the election. If the current date holds, it would represent a setback to Trump's efforts to push the case back until well after the 2024 presidential election, a contest in which he's the early frontrunner for the Republican nomination. The March 2024 date would also ensure a blockbuster trial in the nation's capital in the heat of the GOP presidential nominating calendar, forcing Trump to juggle campaign and courtroom appearances and coming the day before Super Tuesday, a crucial voting day when more than a dozen states will hold primaries and when the largest number of delegates are up for grabs. Judge Chutkan has so far appeared cool to Trump's efforts to delay the case and also expressed concern by social media comments that he has made outside the court. This month, she warned Trump's legal team that there were limits on what he can say publicly about evidence in the investigation. The Washington case is one of 4 prosecutions that Trump is facing. The 4th March trial would take place just weeks before a scheduled New York trial in a case charging him in connection with a hush money payment to a porn actor. All right. For more on this, let's now go across to Ramakrishna Sridharan, consulting editor with News9. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Good evening, Sri. Trump's lawyers obviously wanted the trial to be pushed to April 2026. That was never going to happen. That was never going to fly with Judge Chutkan. Now that we know that the trial is set for March 2024, what does it mean for Trump and what does it mean for his presidential campaign?
Right. So, Neha, now this is something which we had been telling our viewers on Global Lens, that just because Mr. Trump thinks he has a presidential campaign to run, he can get any sort of leniency or special treatment. So the judge in her decision was very clear that, we have to treat every individual in accordance with law, in the eyes of the law. A former president is the same as any other American citizen. Now, that said, how does this trial, the start of the trial, impact Mr. Trump? Now, Neha, as you know, Mr. Trump is by far the most popular Republican nominee for 2024 elections. So I don't think this is going to, be a huge setback for him. Of course, Mr. Trump will need to spend, maybe even that's not sure if he's going to be physically present, if he needs to be physically present in the court for the trial. That's again something which is not clear yet. But the fact is his mind space will be divided between the court trials and having to campaign. But if you look at Mr. Trump's campaigning style so far, he has been, reaching out directly to the people of America through his platform. And then, and he hasn't been doing too many, ground rallies as such. So the question which, the American voters will really want to ask is, with these trials starting, May 4th is the federal indictment trial start. March 24th will be the start of the second indictment on the hush money case involving porn star Stormy Daniels. May 20th would be the start of, the Mar-a-Lago classified document case. And the only other indictment on which the date has not been set yet is the Georgia case, which is even more important and more serious, given that he has been indicted under the Racketeering Act. So how much of this is going to be a distraction? And voters will want to know, do we want a candidate who will potentially be not in a position to actually be a free candidate to become the president of the US? And whether any conviction happens, how does that then impact the presidential candidate? Because remember, the elections happen only in November 2024, and the swearing in of the new president will happen in January next year, in 2025. So it's a long way still. So this is the early stages of election. But I think it's safe to say that Mr. Trump, despite losing a little bit of ground in terms of his popularity over these issues, remains hugely popular, Neha. I mean, he's by far the most popular Republican candidate. And one senses, as he goes into, even if he's required to go into the trials, I think Mr. Trump will use this to his advantage. He's going to regale his voter base with stories of what happened in the court that day. So he will, definitely go ahead and capitalize on the trials as well to strengthen his voter base. So I think Mr. Trump is on a very strong wicket as far as the Republican ticket is concerned, Neha.
Well, clearly, remember, he is a former reality TV star. He is going to capitalize on those high-profile trials. And as we've discussed on Global Lens before, the more indictments Trump garners, the more popular he seems to get with his support base. All right, on that note, Shri, let's move on to our next story. India has rubbished China's latest claims showing Arunachal Pradesh and the Aksai Chin region in Ladakh as part of its own territory in a new map. India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said these are absurd claims. The new so-called standard maps released by China today show Indian territories as theirs. Jaishankar said it was an old habit of China to put out maps claiming territories that don't belong to them, and added that the Modi government is very serious about this issue. The foreign minister said, and I quote, "China has put out maps with territories not theirs. Old habit. Putting out maps with parts in India doesn't change anything. Our government is very clear about territory. Making absurd claims does not make other people's territories yours." And it's not just India that China is provoking. The latest map follows Beijing announcing in April that it would standardize the names of 11 places in Arunachal Pradesh, including a town close to capital Itanagar. This was the third such list renaming places in Arunachal, and was seen by observers as a response to India holding events in the lead up to the G20 summit in the state, which Beijing had opposed. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping is expected to attend the September 9th and 10th summit in New Delhi. India has repeatedly told China that Arunachal Pradesh was, is and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India. As we said, India is not the only country being provoked. The map also incorporates China's claims over the estranged island of Taiwan and the 9-dash line claiming a large part of the South China Sea. China claims Taiwan as part of its mainland, and its integration with the mainland is part of a vowed objective of Chinese President Xi Jinping. All right, let's go back to Shri on this. Shri, of course, Dr. Jaishankar is right that these are old habits. Of course, this is not the first time that China has provoked us in this manner. However, what should we make of the timing? Just a few days ago, the Prime Minister of India rubbed shoulders with the Chinese President at the BRICS summit. And this also comes more significantly on the eve of the G20 summit that New Delhi is holding next week, and in all likelihood the Chinese president is going to be here. So really, what does one make of the timing of this provocation?
Right. I'll come to the timing, Neha, but first, I think this is a silly map and it deserves the kind of response, the silly response which, our foreign minister he's literally laughed it off, saying that, oh, these are, old habits of China, we don't take them seriously. I think that's the appropriate response to a silly map from China, because just because, you put some countries or some parts of a country on your map, it doesn't suddenly belong to you. Now, obviously, you mentioned the timing is like, surprising, but I don't think there's any great thought which has gone into China's part on the timing of this, because this is something their official, ministries they routinely do. So, but yes, the fact that we just wrapped up a BRICS meeting in Johannesburg and now we are headed into a G20 in Delhi in the first week of September, and where not just Xi Jinping, but even US President Joe Biden is going to be there. So, so on that note, let me, briefly explain how China actually fights its territorial disputes, Neha. Now, there are cases where China has actually solved its territorial disputes. For example, with the USSR. It's given away more than 30,000 square feet of land to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan in the mid-90s. So when it suits China, it is willing to settle these disputes. So as far as India's Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh fight is concerned, I think China will want to keep them simmering as some sort of a festering wound without really pushing them. We might have a Galwan kind of an incident one-off, but I think China is by and large happy to keep it like on the boil without really pushing it beyond a point. But Taiwan is a very different issue for China, because China sees that Taiwan is an integral part of the country. Now, that was something which from the time of, when People's Republic of China was created and the Republic of China, which is Taiwan, was created, China has maintained, Mao Zedong maintained, Deng Xiaoping maintained, and now Xi Jinping is maintaining that. So Taiwan is something which I believe China will really fight for, and it's not going to give it up so easily. So that, to my mind, is the bigger battle, not so much our issue with Arunachal Pradesh or Aksai Chin, Neha, because those are, festering kind of, wounds where there was no clear demarcation of territory on either side. So these are all open-ended kind of fights that we can keep squabbling about. But the other issue is, as China's own economy slows down, as people come into suffering, greater suffering, joblessness, poverty levels go up, will China then use its saber rattling to distract the people of China from the core issue of economy? So that could be another issue we need to keep in mind, Neha, as we go into maybe a tougher phase for the Chinese economy.
Well, tyrants are known to use all sorts of distractions to sort of keep their domestic audience busy. But clearly, if this is really a country that has no interest in restoring normalcy along the line of actual control, and as you say, wants to keep the wounds festering, then really how do you trust a neighbor like that? How do you really sit down and talk to China across the table in the hope that these issues are actually going to be resolved? But on that note, Shri, thank you so much for your perspective. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Neha. Pleasure to be on the show.
Thanks, Shri. All right, time for us to move on to some news that's coming from Pakistan. In major relief for former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, the Islamabad High Court today suspended his 3-year jail sentence in the Khanna case. However, a special court that recently agreed to hear cases under the Official Secrets Act has directed the Attock jail authorities, where the former premier is incarcerated, to keep Imran in judicial lockup and produce him on the 30th of August, that's tomorrow, in connection with another case, the Cypher case. The Cypher case pertains to a diplomatic document which reportedly went missing from Imran's possession. Imran Khan's party, the PTI, alleges that it contained a threat from the United States to oust Imran Khan from power. Now, proceedings against the PTI vice chairman and former foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi in the same case are already underway. On the 5th of August, a trial court in Islamabad had convicted the PTI chairman in the case filed by the Election Commission of Pakistan that involved concealing details of state gifts, and jailed him for 3 years. That verdict meant that Imran Khan was disqualified from contesting elections in that country for 5 years. Imran subsequently filed an appeal in the High Court against his conviction. He had also approached the Supreme Court against the High Court's decision to remand the case back to the trial court judge who had convicted him. Now, reacting to this development, Imran Khan's party, the PTI, has demanded that he be released from jail immediately. But it is not clear yet if and when Khan will walk out of jail. On that note, time for us to slip into a quick break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side, a special and exclusive interview. You don't want to miss this one.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the